Welcome back to another battle. In your opinion, who is stronger and who would win in a fight between Dormammu and Cyttorak? Before we dive into the analysis, please remember to subscribe to the channel to support me. Dormammu is an ancient mystical entity belonging to the Faltine race, born from a source of pure energy. From the very moment of his emergence, he did not possess the form of a finite being, but instead was the crystallization of magic, chaos, and an infinite will to conquer. With power that constantly evolves, Dormammu gradually became the supreme ruler of the Dark Dimension, a parallel dimension where time is completely different from the human universe. Within the Dark Dimension, Dormammu is not merely its ruler, but the very embodiment of the dimension itself. Every surge of energy, every magical disturbance reflects his will. Dormammu's greatest ambition is to expand this endless realm by devouring other dimensions, and Earth has always been an especially tempting target. To him, the human world is only a small fragment, yet it contains enough energy and potential to satisfy his limitless desire for domination. That very ambition has placed Dormammu in an endless confrontation with Doctor Strange, the sorcerer who protects Earth. Their conflict is not simply a clash between two individuals, but a collision between order and chaos, between the will to protect and the hunger for power. Dormammu represents the deepest dark side of magic, where power is not bound by morality or limitation, and only destruction and pure ambition exist. Dormammu always carries an overwhelming sense of threat, as if with a single moment of negligence, all reality could be plunged into eternal darkness. His essence is not composed of matter, but of the flames of the Faltine, a primordial and chaotic source of pure mystical energy. This allows Dormammu to manipulate magic at the highest level, surpassing many infamous dark entities, such as Mephisto or Satanish. For Dormammu, unleashing destructive energy, erecting impenetrable shields, or opening portals between dimensions is no more than a fleeting thought. He can travel through time, teleport instantly across space, read and invade the minds of others, manipulate souls, and absorb life force to fuel his power. Dormammu can also control the elements and alter reality on a localized scale at will, causing opponents to lose themselves within overlapping layers of space. In physical terms, his strength reaches a transcendent level, capable of lifting massive weights far beyond the limits of tangible beings. He can change his size, transform matter, possess the bodies of others, and is nearly immortal, because when destroyed, Dormammu can regenerate from his own pure energy. When within the Dark Dimension, Dormammu's power is amplified to an almost absolute level. He is present everywhere within this dimension and controls all the laws of existence inside it, turning the Dark Dimension into an extension of his own will. However, even such a mighty entity is not entirely invincible. When he leaves the Dark Dimension, Dormammu's power decreases significantly. In addition, his arrogance and lack of emotional control often cause him to underestimate his opponents, creating fatal openings that lead to defeat. Dormammu's battles are not merely struggles for power, but affirmations of his supreme status in the mystical world. His first and most persistent enemy is his sister, Umar. The confrontations between two entities sharing the same Faltine origin are always destructive. Dormammu has defeated and exiled Umar multiple times, thereby reinforcing his absolute rule over the Dark Dimension. The peak of Dormammu's power was demonstrated when he confronted Eternity, the entity representing the entire universe. Within the Dark Dimension, Dormammu battled and absorbed a portion of Eternity's power, elevating himself to a new level where the boundary between ruler and god was nearly erased. Not stopping there, he also defeated Zom, a terrifying ancient entity, while summoning dark sorcerers from across the universe to expand his influence and launch large-scale invasions, nearly plunging Earth into eternal darkness. Even when destroyed, Dormammu does not truly disappear. He manipulates the flow of events to reconstruct his body and return stronger than before. Along this journey, he once defeated a version of Galactus and has fought Doctor Strange on equal terms multiple times. Dormammu has also waged war against demon lords of hell and other metaphysical entities, coming very close to controlling both life and death. This series of feats has transformed Dormammu into a symbol of limitless ambition, a force whose every appearance makes the order of the universe tremble in fear. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, and turn on notifications to watch the earliest videos. Thank you very much. Now we will talk about Cyttorak. Cyttorak is an ancient god and also a mystical entity possessing nearly absolute power. He resides within the Crimson Cosmos, a dimension separated from all familiar realities, where the will of Cyttorak is the supreme law. In that crimson realm, primordial power is not bound by time or morality, and only pure domination and destruction exist. The reputation of Cyttorak spreads throughout the universe through the avatars he chooses on Earth. The origin of this power begins with the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, an artifact that carries the will of the ancient god. Anyone accepted by the gem is completely transformed, becoming the embodiment of unstoppable power. The most prominent among them is Juggernaut, who possesses an indestructible body and strength sufficient to crush any obstacle in his path. Cyttorak does not merely grant power, but also instills in his avatars the essence of destruction and primordial brutality. He is known by haunting titles such as the Destroyer or the Lord of Oblivion, names that reflect his philosophy of existence. To Cyttorak, life and death are only fleeting states, while destruction is the eternal law. His power represents the primordial storm from the dawn of the universe, something that cannot be negotiated with, resisted, or halted. Therefore, whenever the name Cyttorak is mentioned, it evokes not only the image of a god, but also the fear of an absolute destructive force that always lurks behind every ambition and conflict in the universe. Speaking of Cyttorak's abilities and power is to touch the deepest layer of primordial magic, the source of nearly limitless power. The essence of Cyttorak is tied to pure mystical energy, which allows him to manipulate magic, and he can transform ordinary humans into invulnerable avatars. Cyttorak can also directly manipulate magic at an extremely high level. He created the Crimson Bands, mystical restraints that are nearly impossible to break, and have bound sorcerers supreme on multiple occasions. Cyttorak is also the source of power for many sorcerers and mystical entities, quietly influencing the magical balance of all reality. He is an immortal entity, capable of manipulating matter, life, and even dimensions, while possessing near absolute resistance to mental attacks, extreme temperatures, the void, and opposing forms of magic. When within the Crimson Cosmos, his will can amplify his avatar to a level capable of threatening or destroying entire universes. However, Cyttorak rarely intervenes directly on Earth, and instead prefers to use avatars as extensions of his will. In the past, he was exiled from the human world by a coalition of other gods, turning this into one of the rare limitations for a nearly omnipotent entity. This combination of absolute power and indirect existence has made Cyttorak both a terrifying and mysterious legend. Confrontations with Cyttorak do not unfold in the usual manner of war or personal conflict. He rarely appears in person, but spreads his power through avatars, turning them into instruments of destruction that carry divine will. The most notable is Juggernaut, also known by his real name, Cain Marco. Under the blessing of Cyttorak, Juggernaut has repeatedly defeated top heroes such as Hulk, Thor, and even the X-Men as a group. At one point beyond control, Cyttorak's avatar nearly killed Serpent, a powerful ancient god. Cyttorak's dominance is not limited to Earth. He once captured Galactus's ship and dragged the Cosmic Devourer into the Crimson Cosmos, overwhelming Doctor Strange along with Nova, who had served as a herald. Even the mightiest cosmic forces can be subdued before the will of Cyttorak. In a wager with the gods of the Octessence, Cyttorak demonstrated absolute superiority when his avatar, Juggernaut, defeated the Exemplars one by one. He also enhanced Colossus to confront the Phoenix Force and transformed Juggernaut into a force capable of destroying the universe during the Trion Saga. Cyttorak is also superior to Zom and can even stand above Shuma-Gorath. All of these feats together portray Cyttorak as a power beyond all standards, one who manipulates wars from the shadows and turns every battle into proof of irresistible might. In terms of power, Cyttorak is often placed above Dormammu based on many official sources, and the way these entities interact with one another. Dormammu himself has had to call upon Cyttorak's power through the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, a detail that clearly shows the gap in their levels of power. When the ruler of the Dark Dimension must rely on the power of another, it speaks for itself about Cyttorak's supreme position within the mystical hierarchy. Cyttorak is frequently compared to Shuma-Gorath, an entity considered superior to Dormammu in terms of chaotic nature and fundamental power. While Dormammu depends heavily on the Dark Dimension to reach a near omnipotent state, Cyttorak possesses infinite primordial power that exists independently of space or dimension. His power requires no condition to be activated and does not diminish when he leaves his own realm. If these two entities were to enter a neutral battle where neither had a home field advantage, the balance of power would clearly tilt towards Cyttorak. Dormammu might endure at the beginning thanks to his vast array of magic, localized reality manipulation, and experience fighting sorcerers supreme. However, against Cyttorak's overwhelming primordial force, those advantages would gradually fade. Cyttorak has demonstrated the ability to overpower or restrain cosmic-level entities such as Galactus, and even exert pressure on eternity, feats that Dormammu can achieve only under very specific circumstances. The outcome of this confrontation is almost predetermined. Dormammu may fight fiercely, but Cyttorak would prevail in a cold and decisive manner, just as he has dominated and surpassed other gods before, affirming his status as a primordial power that stands above all limits of magic and dimension. Cyttorak is the winner. What do you think about this battle? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you all very much.